I want to thank our reader for a great reading, and Gary Lynn Floyd and our CSL music team for the beautiful music today on this Easter Sunday. This month of April, we've been talking about caring, and our message today on Easter is Nourish and Flourish. And just so you know, I tried to give up stress for Lent, but apparently I realized I was way too committed to it. It didn't work very well. On a more serious note, let's talk about the real meaning of Easter. The spirit of Easter is not just to remember an event that happened thousands of years ago, but to experience something within ourselves right here and now. Easter's more than a date on the calendar. It's a divine invitation to rise, to roll away the stones that block our light, and to step into that garden of our life. It's about resurrection, not just of Jesus, but of each of us. It's a call to rise to our highest self, to move from striving to thriving, and from existing to flourishing. So I invite you to open yourself to learning more about nourishing and flourishing today in what might seem like uncertain times. And are you willing to explore with me how Easter invites us to nourish our souls so we can flourish in life? As you ponder that question, here's your question for the week. What is the one choice you might make today to move from surviving to thriving, to let go of what no longer serves you, and to rise up into a greater version of yourself? One more time. What is the one choice you might make today to move from striving to thriving, to let go of what no longer serves you, and to rise up into a greater version of yourself? Easter is the celebration of new life, of transcendence, and of divine possibilities. At its heart, Easter tells the story of love triumphing over fear, and of light overcoming darkness, and life prevailing over death. It's not merely a historical event, it's a spiritual archetype that lives within each of us. Spiritually, Easter invites us to die to the old, to those limiting beliefs, to that unforgiveness, to that fear, and to rise into the truth of our being, that we're divine, whole, perfect, and complete, and free. It's about resurrection consciousness, a state of awareness where we awaken to our external nature and to the oneness with the infinite. Easter is a call to each of our souls to roll away the stones of doubt and resentment and fear, to leave behind tombs of limitation, and to rise into the truth of our spiritual identities. Further, the resurrection is not just an event. It's a spiritual principle that calls us to be nourished so that we might flourish. And it's a spiritual cornerstone, not about barely getting by. It's about stepping fully into our abundance in life. As I say every week in the opening, to enthusiastically expect your good. You know, in the Bible, John 10:10, we're told that Jesus said, "I have come that they may have life and have it more abundantly." Do you believe Jesus meant those words? I certainly do. So why is it we so often live in the muck of life, not looking at how we might flourish? Remember those words of Emma Curtis Hopkins from last week? There is a good for me, and I ought to have it. If we're to have an abundant life, we have to start with not only believing it's there, but believing that we ought to have it. Personally, what I've noticed over the years is when I am prayed up, when I truly daily do my spiritual practices, that's precisely when there is good for me and I believe I ought to have it. And I do flourish. My spiritual practices nourish my soul and allow me to thrive, not just survive. The Bible reminds us that Jesus often withdrew to pray. So if Jesus withdrew to recharge, so to speak, on this Easter Sunday, how might we learn to be more like Jesus and take time to nourish our souls so that we can flourish? Let's pause for a minute and do what I call the nourishment check-in. First of all, ask yourself, what drains me? And as you're thinking about it, just notice how you're feeling. And now ask yourself, what feeds my soul? It might be prayer or silence, guided meditations, affirmations, a walk in nature, listening or playing music, gathering with friends to just chat, a gratitude journal, or something else entirely. Whatever feeds your soul, as you think about it, just notice how you're feeling. And if you're able to, and want to feel more nourished, eliminate what drains you and choose one thing off of your Feeds My Soul list and add it to your to-do list for the coming week. And commit to doing it at least once every day. At week's end, just notice if you feel more nourished. Easter is filled with symbolism, not just rising up into our more abundant lives and our more abundant selves. The resurrection of Jesus represents the victory of spirit over matter, of eternal truth over temporal appearances. It symbolizes the awakening of our spiritual nature and the recognition that death, whether physical or symbolic, is not the end. Rather, it's a doorway to life everlasting. In John 11:25, Jesus also said, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. Resurrection is not only what happened to Jesus, it's what happens to us when we choose love over fear, when we release our past and step into grace. It's what's possible for you and for me, and possible right here and now. Ernest Holmes put it this way: the resurrection is the lifting up of the whole man into the higher meaning of life. It is a complete deliverance from all that hurts or hinders, and it is an acceptance of the wholeness of being. Now that sounds pretty good to me. Deliverance from all that hurts or hinders, right? And the key is that we don't have to earn it. We don't have to earn resurrection. We just have to remember and accept it. Further, resurrection is not a one-time miracle. It's a daily invitation to remember that place within us that is divine and to rise into that place daily. A Course in Miracles says, you always receive as much as you accept. So there we are, back to the fact that Jesus came so that we could have life more abundantly. Are you ready to accept an abundant life? And what about that empty tomb? The empty tomb is one of the most profound symbols in spiritual literature. As Luke says in 24:5, when the women were arriving at the tomb, the angel said to them, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here. He has risen." We are each being called to stop looking for life in the places of death, in fear, in the past, in those stories that we hang on to that tell us we're not good enough, we're a victim of circumstances, we're not worthy, or whatever your story might happen to be. Sometimes that good that Emma was talking about is just on the other side of the stones we've put in our minds and our hearts that are hiding our joy in the tomb. The empty tomb is not a place of death. It's actually a place of release, of letting go of what no longer gives us life. It's a reminder to stop looking for life in the places of limitation or decay or sorrow or hurt, and to look within to the eternal spark of divinity that cannot be confined to any tomb. Or look within to that place within you that's never been touched by sorrow or pain and is the essence of your own divinity. Are you ready for your own resurrection? Charles Fillmore said, "The resurrection is the raising up of the whole man, spirit, soul, and body, into the Christ consciousness of life and wholeness." So what do you need to let go of? What no longer belongs in the story of your becoming, of your rising up? Maybe it's an old belief, an old pattern of who you think you should be. Or maybe it's time to release that inner critic who's always offering commentary that you didn't ask for. Let this be the day, let this Easter be the day that you leave behind the not enough stories, that stone of resentment, that idea that it's too late. You know, we're never too old, too broken, or too anything to rise up. The resurrection represents transcendence, the idea that the finality we often place on endings is an illusion. The stone isn't rolled away, not by human effort, but by divine movement. And the tomb is empty, not because life is gone, but because life is moved beyond form. As Ernest Holmes put it, Jesus revealed the nature of the spiritual man as perfect, whole, and complete. His resurrection was the practical demonstration of this truth. I love the symbolism of that empty tomb reminding us that our true self is never confined, never buried. We are always free to rise. Okay, so sometimes we cling on to those old patterns, to that pain, to that fear, to our limiting beliefs. I know things pop up for me that I think I've forgiven or forgotten, and yet flourishing requires clearing space, just like a garden needs the weeds removed in order for things to grow. So let's take a look at another spiritual practice that I find helps me. It's called spiritual spring cleaning. Okay, so write down or think of one belief or one habit or one fear that you'd like to release. And now say aloud, I leave this in the tomb, I step into new life. I leave this in the tomb, I step into new life. I leave this in the tomb, I step into new life. How does that feel? Wow, spiritual spring cleaning feels great to me. And actually, I usually like physical spring cleaning. That is until I find that junk drawer that's been holding expired coupons or mystery keys for years. Yeah, I know, that's a groaner. Seriously though, the Course in Miracles reminds us, you are the resurrection and life. It's true. The resurrection isn't just about Jesus. It's about the divine essence within you, the spiritual man. The same light that rose on Easter morning is the light of the divine which lives in you right now. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, "We're always getting ready to live, but never living." So are you doing that, getting ready to live but never living? If you are, stop it. Stop preparing for the life that you are meant to live and actually start living it. Rise up. Ernest Holmes wrote, "Today I rise from the tomb of confusion. I walk forth into the light, clothed in the newness of life." The bad news is we're always able to find confusion and chaos. But the good news is, in this version of the story, those grave clothes don't wrinkle. I can almost hear the groans on that one as well. Seriously, walk into the light of who you are. I'm going to ask you to play with me yet again with this spiritual practice, which is a modified mini version of our meditation today. Just take a moment. I invite you again to close your eyes. And this time, imagine walking to the tomb of your own soul. There's a stone with something written on it. Just notice what your stone says, whether it's labored fear or guilt, not enough, not worthy, and see it being rolled away. Not by force, but by grace. And as you look in, notice the tomb is empty. You're not there. Why are you not there? Because you have risen. So we've looked at how to nourish ourselves with that nourishment check-in, and we've done some spiritual spring cleaning, and we've rolled away the stone of fear, guilt, or resentment, or whatever yours was labeled. And yet, that is not enough to rise up in joy. Easter is a call to grow and expand so that we can flourish, not just exist. Hence the title of our talk today, Nourish and Flourish. It's a call to rise into a greater version of ourselves. Ernest Holmes reminded us, life is not just something to be endured, it's to be lived in joy, in a fullness without limit. Well, you know I love living in joy and in a fullness without limit. So I'm wondering if you're living that way or seeing life as something to be endured. If it's the latter and you're just enduring life, that is certainly not flourishing. So how might you truly flourish and live in joy? Well, Catherine Economo gives us a hint. Flourishing is not luck. It is alignment with the divine. And in Isaiah 43:19 in the Bible, we read this. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? To flourish goes beyond nourish, and it requires these three things, in my opinion. Nourishment, which is feeding the soul, releasing, which is letting go of limitation, and action, which is stepping forward in faith. So let's try yet another spiritual practice. I call this one the flourishing vision. Close your eyes again, if that's comfortable for you. Imagine yourself fully thriving, joyful, peaceful, abundant. See yourself thriving. Get a good picture of that in your mind. Now, allow your breath to nourish you as you slowly breathe. And breathe in renewal and breathe out old limitations. Breathe in renewal and breathe out old limitations. Breathe in renewal and breathe out old limitations. And now ask yourself, what is one action I can take this week to flourish in my life? And notice if you're committed to doing it. Remember, we must not only feed the soul and release, we have to take action. Every day we're called to rise up again in faith, love, and purpose. So here's one final spiritual practice that you can make Easter a way of life, a daily invitation to rise up. Each morning say, I rise into love, I rise into joy, I rise into divine abundance. Today I flourish. Or maybe just sing Gary's song, I Rise. Or make up your own way to start your day and to rise in joy. I want to close now remembering that the resurrection story is not just about what happened to one man. It's about what's happening in you every time you remember who you are. A radiant expression of God, a being of eternal light, a soul that was never meant to live in a tomb. It's about letting go of any pain and rising up in the divine essence within you. The resurrection is a miracle, and A Course in Miracles speaks of miracles. Miracles are expressions of love, but they may not always have observable effects. So take the miracle of Easter and remember, you are not in a place of limitation. You are in a place of resurrection. Christ is risen, and so are you. So start this spiritual new year with a commitment to make it a year in which you choose one way to nourish and one way to flourish each day. Release the old, step into expansion, and live Easter daily. In truth, the message of the resurrection, which seems to be the end is a new beginning, death of our old limited selves, and birth of who we really are, is truly Easter. Let me refer to the Bible one more time. Romans 8:11. If the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, he will also give life to your mortal bodies because of his spirit who lives in you. So may you rise in joy. May you release what no longer serves you. And may you step into the fullness of divine love. And may your Easter be filled with an enlightenment and, of course, some chocolate. So in summary, how might you learn to nourish and flourish this Easter and live that abundant life that is yours to accept? Well, move from surviving to thriving. Roll away that stone of doubt, of resentment, of fear, of guilt, and notice what drains you and what feeds your soul. Choose to have the good that is yours. Let go of what no longer serves you and stop looking for life in places of death. Those fears, those past stories. Remember, your true self is never confined or buried. So quit getting ready to live and walk forth in your light. Rise up into that greater version of yourself. Flourish is not luck, it's alignment with the divine. Release the old, step into expansion, and live Easter daily. So here's your affirmation for the week. How is it I so willingly, energetically, and effortlessly move from surviving to thriving, let go of what no longer serves me, and rise up into a greater version of myself? And make a conscious choice this week to practice so that you can feel nourished and flourished. Release the need to squeeze yourself and adopt at least 2 practices that strengthen your ability to rise up to who you are so you can flourish in life and live that life which Jesus came for you to have, that life of abundance and enjoy. Those spiritual practices can be the ones I suggested or ones you made up on your own. So let's pray. Let's move back into that sacred garden within yourself, to that place that lies within, that is the way you see the world and the way you know that there is nothing to fear, that you are risen. From that place where you know the essence of who we are, where the tomb of fear and guilt and resentment and not worthiness is empty, where we know the truth. We are radiant expressions of God. We have risen to the truth of our spiritual identity. I know that each of us walk through each day with our hearts wide open, ready to nourish ourselves and others so that we might all flourish on this planet. I know that our words uplift, our actions heal, and our presence inspires. I see each of us being the embodiment of divine love and a beacon of light shining from the limitless love of our hearts. I'm grateful you chose to spend some time with us on this Easter day. Grateful we can go forth today with joy, bliss, and blessings, and an open heart. And it's with great gratitude that I release these words into that law of mind, spirit, and action, knowing the truth that we've asked and it's been given. So knowing that it's done, I say amen, and we can affirm it together. And so it is. I am so grateful for everyone that is still donating and allowing us to continue to have our services and come to you each week. I hope with this new spiritual year that you will make a commitment to yourself to donate to our community or to wherever you're spiritually fed. Thanks again, and enjoy our offertory song.